Great point. And I just realized I hadn't put us on YouTube, so I put us on YouTube. And it's like my world coming out of med device, pacemakers. Well, they go in a person. And so that was another thing too, that in our world, we're dealing with clinics, docs, all those, and now it's turned into just sort of a depressing nightmare.
Well,
because now we're selling, and it's almost driven by the hospital purchasing groups. And there's less interaction with the doctors and all that stuff where, especially in pacemakers, pretty technical product, but unfortunately that's almost become a commodity, my friends tell me, which again is a shocking thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, how did that happen? But everything changes. So we got to stay on top of things. And yet, so, like at Medtronic, being probably the role model, the leader of the industry and all that great stuff, great products, great sales, great support, all that stuff. And in fact, my sister the other day had some medical issues for her husband, and he's got, at least one Medtronic implant. And so they said, well, before we can do an MRI, we need to know if his implant is turned on, we need to turn it off, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to know exactly where it is in his body and blah, blah, all that kind of stuff. So my sister goes through her safe, her legal documents, her, like everywhere. My sister is super organized. And so she had all these places she thought she could have filed it. She's looking all over, and I'm just sitting there in my mind going, why don't you just call Medtronic? So she calls Medtronic, and she wasn't sure what prompt to hit. And she just went to one of them. And then that said, if you're a doctor, press 1. If you're a patient, press 2, whatever. So she did the patient. Well, then they wouldn't give her any information. So she calls back. It says it's the doctor one because she's standing in the hospital at the desk, And so she gets through. They say, well, we're not the right place. I'll connect you, gets right through, gets to the place. They answer. And like in 1 minute, they go, oh yeah, well, we'll just pull up, puts his name, we'll pull it up, got it here. Okay, yep, we got this, okay, it's this device, here's all the information, da, 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 da. And they said, do you want us to fax it to you? And my sister's like, yeah, I'm standing right at the nurse's station. So she gets the fax number, and she said, well, when am I going to get this? And she goes, oh, in 15 minutes. It was there in 5. So some places are really, really good at knowing how to do all of this, and some aren't.
Well, you mentioned that pacemakers are becoming a commodity, and I was reading a book, and don't ask me the name of the book because I can't get it to you, but it was a very interesting quote. And then it said, it was talking about competitive positioning, and it basically said, don't try to match your competitors' features. Because once you match all the competitive features, now you've turned your product into a commodity.
Exactly.
When everything is the same, it boils down to price.
Yeah. And as soon as you compete on price, it's a fast road to the bottom.
Yep.
So thanks for your thoughts on that, Dave, because, it does get a little bit more complicated, a little bit different. I'm going to ask you guys, what can you see on your screen? Because part of what I see now is my YouTube.
I can see everything.
No, we see the slide. The customer.
I'm seeing the slide. Yeah.
Just the slide, but everything.
Okay. Okay, so thank you for that. And Dave, I think that was a great point that you brought up. And the other thing that I don't have on here that I just made a note of too is I should have things like trade shows and events, because there's other things that we could be doing, webinars, we could be hosting some other kind of event. There's lots of things that we could be doing. So I appreciate your input. And I don't know why my slides all got goofed up here, but then the last one is the advocacy. So one, appropriate, Dave, I would bet that you get reviews because of the nature of your customers.
Yep.
And even in the B2B space, there can be reviews out there depending on what people do. But you want people to share their experience. You want to engage with them. You want to recommend them to recommend you. And the whole thing about the whole brand advocacy or brand ambassadors, I think people have gotten more in tune with. And what we've all been around for a while. A lot of what gets talked about now, we've known and we've done probably our entire career, but now things have labels. So we look at them a little differently.
Well, and you know, and I have to. Oh, I lost that slide.
Yeah, just a minute. I'm going to go back because I was trying to make sure I got off of my,
Yeah, so
Off
just something on that slide. So advocacy is not necessarily following loyalty.
okay.
So for example, we launched a new product at the Snap-on show where, you know, they have all their franchisees come in and look at product.
Uh-huh.
And people saw this new product and said, hey, this is great. And they were texting it out to people and they were posting it on Facebook to their customers and getting feedback. So we got this viral buzz and people were saying, hey, you got to go check out this new product, get some, this is going to sell, yada, yada, yada. And so the product went viral before we developed loyalty.
Wow.
Mhm.
You know, we have, so, you know, we have a product that we launched, our cleanable reversible hex driver that, and I'm going to dare say it went viral, you know, but once we had competitors enter the market, you know, people started switching to the competitors because of the loyalty and the placement of the product to the other brand. So people can advocate for, hey, here's a new solution to solve a common problem, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're loyal to you.
Wow. So you had the first product in the market and everybody was excited, but then the competition came in and people reverted back to their original brand.
Yeah.
Ah, so annoying.
Well,
And Dave, was there any form of patents, IP on this product? Or was it just a copycat product that anyone could copycat?
well, let's just say that we had a patent and senior management made a decision not to go to court.
Ah,
Okay.
yeah. And, you know, that's always a tough decision because it ties up your resources, your money, your people, all of that.
Well, and it's the probability of actually winning the case.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that too. Wow.
Right.
Wow. Well, you know, the only thing I can say in that case, and I don't know that you could have done a whole heck of a lot more, but would there have been anything you could do once you got that customer to start making that relationship, because they now had one thing? Would there be anything to build on that relationship so they would have stayed with you? I mean, that's a tough job, but that's about the only thing I think you could have done.
Well, and I'm not going to say people abandon us, you know, but now that the competitive product is out there, you know, we're seeing an impact in our sales volume.
Yeah.
We are still much higher priced than the new entry, you know, so we continue to people continue to buy our product. So we have some loyalty. You know, but where I was going with that is, again, advocacy does not necessarily rely on loyalty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, I'm making a note. All right, that's great. Thanks for adding that.
Well, because, you know, can you flip back to the previous slide?
Yeah.
Yeah, so so tell me about that maintain again.
Well, again, it's once they use the product, you need to either potentially maintain the product or service, or you need to maintain the relationship. I mean, you can kind of look at it two different ways, but a lot of times once we have I think the point here is that sometimes people make the sale and they forget that there's more they need to do. And I think that's the main thing, is just making sure that if there's after the purchase sales or service or any kind of support, and also just nurturing that relationship.
Yeah, because when I was looking at thank you for clarifying that, because when I was looking at this, I'm like, this really is not necessarily a linear path.
Right.
Especially when it comes to product, because with the use, you may have loop backs where, you know, you have a less than desirable outcome on the first usage, or you have, that troubleshooting flow. And people can recommend the product. That would flow because people can recommend the product, but not necessarily repurchase it. And we've
Yeah.
experienced that with new products.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, in certain things, I'm sure have certain products where the person needs one and they're not going to repurchase that particular product, but it might be
Yeah.
then they purchase other products in your product line.
Yeah, I would just, like I said, when I looked at this, it's like, okay, you have use, and there's different paths coming off of use, because some people will buy the product, it works great, and skip that maintenance step and go right to a repurchase or even a recommend.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's great, because that leads right into what I wanted to share here from McKinsey. Now, I think you can see this still.
Yep.
It's
Yes.
orange
It's the loyalty
line,
loop.
orange things, because Dave has already figured this out. Dave, McKinsey needs to hire you.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, when they get that desperate, we'll talk. Yeah.
I like this, and I think I got this in probably my digital media course through University of Virginia or I don't know, Champaign-Urbana, whichever school it was. And this again is written for consumer, but I think it applies to, like yours in the trade, I think it applies to B2B, B2C, whatever. So the thing that I like about this is, I'm just going to walk through this because it looks a little bit weird when you just look at it. So the first thing over on the left, that blue area, initial consideration set. So of course, that's just like we were talking about. People see something, think of something, hear something, get frustrated with a product they have, whatever. There's something that makes them say, we need to look, we need some new ideas, new solution to this. Then they move into that first orange band that goes the top one there. And the second point says consumers add or subtract brands as they evaluate what they want. So consumers or B2B, we go through that. All right, my current solution isn't working, or I never had one, so I got go find something. Excuse me, it's that information gathering, shopping for consumers, just digging in and trying to figure out what are my choices, how will it work, all that. So then they get over to point 3 over on the right, the moment of purchase. Now somebody's going to pick a product, pick a particular brand. Okay, I'm picking brand A, moving on. Then that bottom orange loop is the post-purchase experience. And we've all probably been around post-cognitive dissonance and all that stuff that kind of people talk about in the consumer world. So again, at point 4, after we or the customer has bought the product or service, then they build expectations about, what's going to happen. It's going to affect them for future purchases, all of that. So then the thing that is interesting on the McKinsey approach makes a lot more sense to what you were saying, Dave, is let's look at that little one on the left, that kind of star that says trigger. Okay, so something happens and they go, okay, I need to buy this again, or I need to go back to this company and see if they have another solution for me. And then that's what they call the loyalty loop. And what is interesting, I think, is that a lot of times people, and that's the way I've drawn that journey map, and I think 2, 3 other ones that I have are all linear, but they do have some waves as well. You might have the line, and then you might have some waves of what goes on. And I thought, and that just gets a little bit too difficult to sit down and talk about sometimes. But what I love about the McKinsey is they kind of come back and they say, like you did, Dave, the new purchase decision can happen anywhere on that journey, because now they have some information, now they have some experience, and now they know us. So it's not a completely different process, but their entry in and out is at different points. And I think sometimes people don't think about that so much when they're putting together a journey map, and they think, okay, I got my map, I need to do stuff out here to get people to know me and da. But it's a continuum, and we need to be able to jump in and have different things that we do, different behaviors, different tools, whatever that we use, because people come and go.
Yeah, and you're gonna kick me out of this group because I'm gonna psychoanalyze these charts.
Go right ahead, Dave.
You know, but I mean, just I look at number 4, and you should, you know, in my mind, you know, number 4 should also be in this loop as 2.5.
Sorry.
Because, you know, once you go out and you do your research, so number 2, you're doing the research, you're doing the filters, and you're selecting which refrigerator you want, and, you know, the ice maker or whatever, and you subtract brands that don't have it. I get that. But once you go and you do your research and you make a purchase decision, you have already built a set of expectations. And then you make the purchase. And then after that purchase is how well did you meet expectations?
Yeah.
So if you met the pre-purchase expectations or exceeded them, that loyalty loop becomes very strong. Whereas if you did a poor job of meeting it, say, okay, yeah, I bought the refrigerator and the drawers broke. When you come back and you didn't meet the expectations, then you're going to bypass that loyalty loop and you're going to go back into that consideration set.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and the other thing that this doesn't encompass is, okay, after that, once you've got the cycle going, once you have a new competitor, a new entry, now you're going to have a separate initial consideration set where instead of looking at everything on the map, you might go back and look at just the new entry.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm overthinking the plumbing. So I apologize for that.
No, those are all really good points. And that's where I think too, that my main concern with when people do a customer journey map, because I think it's really helpful to do that, to dissect things, because sometimes we miss things. And the whole idea with a customer journey map is to look for where's a gap, where can we do better? Is there something we're missing? You know, that kind of thing, and really just give ourselves a little bit more process and a little bit more structure so we got something to look at and make sure we're understanding that. And yet I think for people, the great point you make is it's not always the same. It's not just go in here, done deal, we got all the pieces, we're off the hook. Because you're absolutely right. Things change and things change in the marketplace and all that. And that's what I think McKinsey is trying to get at too, is to say it's more of a cycle. And, you know, with that loyalty loop, their whole point there was that it doesn't mean that people go through all the steps all the time.
Right. No, like I said, I'm probably overthinking the plumbing.
No, those are great points. Because like I said,
you know, because, you know, one of the things that, you know, I'm currently challenged with is that post-purchase experience, and how do you measure your customer satisfaction after purchase?
yeah,
You know, especially with a product like a hand tool that, you know, there's no tracking data. You know, since we're selling through distribution, we don't have access to that end user. We don't know who bought it and when. We just know that a unit was sold from that distributor. So how do you track down that end user to find out if they were happy with the product?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I did a lot of work on Grainger, and now I'm even forgetting, but Grainger, trying to remember, one is the manufacturer and one is the one that sells it. And it was Grainger, and there's whoever, you probably know all of these names. And that was one of the issues, was they were trying to, if it was Grainger, they were trying to increase sales and they were trying to impact the consumer, but because they sold through distributors, they didn't have the access, you know, to get there. And Bridget, this is sort of up your world. Do you have any suggestions for Dave or in this kind of situation?
I think you're on mute.
Yeah,
Sorry.
now she's back.
Glad I've never done that.
So I agree with Dave that you build the expectation prior to the moment of purchase. And then after the moment of purchase is the evaluation, and you're assessing how that product actually lived up to your expectations. And then, I mean, customer satisfaction is definitely something that we do. So Dave, our company is Unmuted Consumer Insights. So we're a full service market research firm. We specialize in consumer research specifically, and but we do other types of research. So we do customer sat, we do employee satisfaction. Primarily, we do a lot of like technology type research, product research, especially during product development. So anyway, so I would say yes, that's probably that bottom part of your graphic is that assessment and really that analysis of how the product lived up to your expectations.
So what would you say for a company like Dave's? How can they get to the end user when they're selling through distribution? Got any tips for them?
So Dave, are you selling through distribution? I thought you were selling to contractors. Sorry if I missed. I had to step out. My daughter was leaving for the weekend, so I was seeing her off.
That's okay.
So I might have missed that. You're muted now.
Well, taking care of the daughter leaving is way more important than this discussion. So, so we manufacture the product.
Yeah.
We then sell it to a distributor, such as a Grainger.
I see.
That then the person doing the installing the siding would buy from Grainger. Or it could be from Home Depot, or it could be from another wholesaler. It could be from Amazon. So there's multiple channels that they can buy through. And then that installer will use our product to install for the homeowner.
Mhm.
So our end user is the installer. And, you know, the challenge is identifying the installer that's bought your product. So I actually literally yesterday I came up with a great idea for doing that. Because, you know, when we go to trade shows, for example, our cleanable reversible hex driver, you know, if you imagine like a little, you know, $6 hex chuck.
Yeah.
So a lot of times we will give those away at a show just to what's the word? Prime the pump, you know, get the product out there, get people using it and hope for word of mouth. So what I came up with is I'm going to create a business card that says, okay, if you would like a free demo tool, that's great. But what I need you to do is give me your name, your phone, your cell number, and your email address.
Yeah.
And you agree that I can call you between now and 6 months and say, how did you like the product? How did it work for you? Etc. In exchange for that free tool, I'm getting them to commit to give me end user feedback on the product.
Yeah. Yeah, I was also thinking, and this may not work depending on the price point of your products, but I know a lot of products come with a warranty. And so if your products have any type of guarantee or warranty, they would have to register with you. And that's another way of gathering their info. But
well, we actually do that. I implemented that a long time ago, but the warranty registration card typically only works when there is a perceived significant cost to the purchase.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Depending on the price point of your products, people aren't going to take the time to do it.
Exactly. A $6 hex driver, not going to happen. Now you buy a $400 brake, we actually get those warranty cards back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, as a company, are we good at circling back with those folks for the feedback? No, we're not, but we're getting there.
Yeah. It's so hard to be good at everything. I mean, like I'm looking at Becky's graphics and, you know, the whole journey, and it's like, yeah, I should be doing, yeah. But you just can't do it all. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And that's
just
where,
find
you
a
know,
couple things to do really well and penetrate as deep as you can go, and then find others to pick up, you know, the ball in those other areas where you're not at.
Yeah. And that's where I think the value in the journey map is, if we can kind of lay things out then we can kind of go, okay, where's the one thing that I can work on? Or where's
Yeah.
the one that would get me the best return if, I have more time and energy on it. The other thing I was just going to ask you, Bridget, because, I've done a ton of research. I don't do consumer things, but are there, because I always hired somebody to do my recruiting. Are there research companies that would be able to either recruit or give Dave a list because they've got access to that kind of data? I mean, some companies out there have access to a ton of stuff.
Yeah. So I don't know that you can, the recruit would be really pricey.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay.
just a normal recruit, you're paying anywhere from $100 to $150 per person to recruit not people that aren't difficult to find. However, depending on how widespread your products are, Dave, so the way we do our research and the way we find our participants is I work with panel providers. And these panel providers will distribute the survey on your behalf. They will not hand over the contact information.
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
that's their bread and butter. This is all they do. So the way panels work, panels are these huge databases of people who have agreed to participate in research. So when I'm doing a survey, like for example, I did something for the Girl Scouts. Okay. And it was in Southeast Michigan. Okay. So they can target based on zip code and, geography. They can target based on people with children in the household. They can target based on different factors. And then you have a screener built into the survey to really identify, does this person meet our criteria? So I do know that there are B2B panels. There may be panels of these contractors. I haven't done one with contractors, but I'm sure they exist because I know there's a lot of B2B panels out there. But then you would still just have to screen within your survey to make sure that they actually bought your product. But if your volume is really low, then finding those people you're probably not going to find them that way, because these panels are only people who have agreed to take research. So it's not every household, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Dave,
Well, 'cause-
go ahead. Sorry.
So about 18 years ago, I was in a product management role with this company, and then I went into business development and some other things for a long time. Now I'm, as of the first of this year, I'm back in a product management role.
Okay.
And one of the things that I did early in my first venture is I created a contractor database.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I actually had our reps go to at events, and they'd have a sign up form. It says, hey, join our contractor database, get, information about new products and that type of thing. And, we gathered like 10,000 names, in the, very short period of time. And we've never done a really good job of maintaining that database.
Yeah.
And now that I'm back in this role, I'm like going, yeah, we have a contractor database, but it's, obviously been neglected, because we can say that they are HVAC or their exterior siding or their roofing, but that's really all that we know about them.
Mm-hmm.
So, one of the journeys that we need to undertake as a company is with that database is actually move that from an Access database, which I hate that software, by the way, but we actually need to, in my opinion, need to move that into a CRM, where we can really qualify them a lot better.
Yeah.
For example, if you'll allow me to share something here.
Sure.
Never mind. I can't.
Oh.
So the survey that we're doing at a show next week has a lot of that qualification data. If you're working on a roof, what percent of your roofs are done with a wood deck versus a metal deck? What percent of your work is, commercial versus residential, so that, we at least have a little bit of demographic information about those end users. And that
Yeah.
way, in the future, we say, okay, I want to do research on a product that involves roofing related to metal deck. Okay, now I've got, okay, here's a universe of people that are not only roofing, but we know they do metal decking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to build that panel ourselves.
Yes.
Can't say that we've done a great job of it though.
Yeah. Yeah.
That sounds like
Yeah,
a
that
great
makes
step
sense.
forward.
Mhm. Mhm.
The one question I was going to ask you is I'm kind of wondering if there's anything that you could steal from the online marketplace, as far as you've got people that come to Instagram, Facebook, all of that right now. My guess is that you're putting out videos on how to use the tools, and maybe users send in videos. Maybe you have a little contest now and that, who sends the most clever video, or whatever. And you can give away like the free laminated tool checklist if they give you their email. So I don't know if you've been able to very much in your social media to use any way of collecting their email addresses, but that might be another thing. And then, the whole thing in the social media world, or in the online businesses, just give away free information that's useful for people. And my guess is you're doing stuff like that. So just wondering if there's anything that you're doing now that could just be tweaked a little bit that would help you get that information.
Yeah, I'm all ears.
Well, the whole online model is a whole different world out there. You have an irresistible offer, you got the lead magnets, you got the landing pages, you got this, that, all that kind of stuff. It just kind of turns into its own world. But there might be some things that just you could incorporate in your social media where you would capture that by offering people a coupon. Who knows, or your free tool. Maybe you try that through your social media. How many people do you have? Much engagement on your social media? And do you have very many people, followers?
Yes. Don't ask me the statistics, because I don't know that. We've got other people in the organization that are much more dialed into that.
Yeah. Well, it's too bad I can't remember more about the Granger project that I did, because I, as well as a bunch of other people, came up with all these I can't even remember. Well, it was a capstone project, but came up with, here's your whole plan. I'm like, God, it would have been nice if I had all that stuff. I just say, Dave, here's some stuff. Maybe there's something good in one of these. Because it makes it more complicated. You're absolutely right. But it sounds like you're on the track to do some things that are going to help. And thanks for sharing your thoughts too, Bridget.
Sure, of course.
Yep.
All
Thanks.
right, we got 4 minutes left. Anybody have anything else you want to ask or add or anything? Great discussion.
Yeah, no, actually, I was kind of thinking about I'm getting to the point where I almost need to wrap up here.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I'm good here. Thank you
well,
so much,
goodness
Elizabeth.
sakes. Now, have you all won prizes from me yet?
I have
That's
twice. So
I have twice as well.
Dave,
Yeah.
Dave,
Yep,
did you ever win anything?
Yeah, I think I got a book and I said, go ahead and give it to the next person in line.
Okay. Well, then maybe I don't have anything new to give you guys, but you know what? Let's just see who's the winner. Just to
For
say,
bragging rights.
just a second. I don't have this on the screen share now, do I?
no.
Okay. Well, I spun it. Let me show you who got.
We've got great odds, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, the spin ended up with Dave. So Dave, you're the winner of the day. Oh, I put Brenda on there. Well, I meant Bridget. I just
That's okay.
guess I was typing a little too fast. Well, thanks.
Don't worry.
You see, you have to blame that on the predictive text.
There we go.
You type
Okay. Well, then Bridget, alias
Bridget.
Brenda.
I've been called worse.
And you know Brenda too. So there we go. There we go.
That's right.
Well, hey, you guys have a great weekend, and
You, Dave,
thanks for
have a great
the convo,
weekend.
and sorry if I
Thanks.
talk too much.
No, Dave, I
No,
think
it
it
was
was a
great.
great discussion. And if you guys have suggestions on what to do to, continue First Friday, make it more useful for people. You know, I think we had a really good discussion here.
Yeah.
And I know we have a holiday week and all that stuff, but if you've got suggestions or anything, please send me a direct message or whatever, because I'd like this to be valuable for people and have it be worthwhile.
Cool. All
Perfect.
right, thank you. See ya.
Okay.
Thank
Bye,
you, everybody.
guys.
Have a